Well, as our buddy the Sippin' Sooner said, it's definitely talking season in college football. And boy, is there lots to talk about. You got the GOAT, Nick Saban, retiring. You've got shuffling everywhere when it comes to now replacing players that are leaving in the portal from Alabama, players leaving in the portal to Alabama from Washington or Arizona or San Jose State or wherever the hell. But one of the bigger things that we're starting to hear, at least around these parts, is who's going to be better? Who's going to be better in year one of SEC football? Texas or Oklahoma? Texas or Oklahoma? Oklahoma or Texas? There are so many stupid freaking narratives out there about this very subject that we got to talk about it just a little bit at least. And I'm going to break down for you what I think is going to be really happening and some of the people you should probably be listening to versus the ones you shouldn't.
Let's go!
Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame College Football. Talking season. I love it. There's nothing better. Well, there's a lot better. When they're playing is when it's best, but this is what really kind of gets you going and gets you primed up and ready for the next season, because really there's nothing else going on. We're going to talk about it and what we project is going to happen. The funny thing is that you end up seeing how much people pay attention to what's really going on with the entirety of college football versus whether they're just focusing on the team that they love. Just going to give you a hint. Most people are just paying attention to the team that they like. It's delusional sometimes, to be honest with you. There is certainly a lot of delusion. And I'll tell you, where it's coming from is weird because you have a lot of programs that are doing a lot of this, and you hear a lot of stupid things like Oklahoma is about to be the Nebraska of the SEC. But it doesn't come from your Georgias of the world or your Alabamas of the world or even your LSUs or whatever. It's coming from morons in the fan bases of places like Missouri. I've heard it a little bit from Arkansas. I've heard it a little bit from Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is they're not big fans of ours, and I understand it. But you're not hearing it from the teams that have traditionally and lately been at the top. Missouri, of course, goes 11-2 this year, but in a season that really the best teams that they played in their in the conference even were LSU and Georgia, and they lost both games. They lost both games. They got a win in a New Year's Six game in the Cotton Bowl over Ohio State, an Ohio State team that didn't bring its starting quarterback from the entire season. Probably had a better quarterback playing, but he was lost to an injury early in the game. And it was a boring football game that Missouri found a way to win. Good for them. The other best game that they won all year, Arkansas. No, just kidding. Probably Tennessee. And then their early season 60-yard field goal win over Kansas State at home in a game that Kansas State didn't look very good in because Kansas State wasn't very good. But the other questions being asked at this point is which program is better prepared between Oklahoma and Texas to compete in the SEC right now? It's being asked from major media markets, major media sources, ESPN, 247, CBS, on three of these guys. I get it. I get that. And the truth is, I can even understand why you would probably pick Texas because of the fact that they were playing in the CFP this season. They, of course, lost. And Steve Sarkisian is a year ahead of Brent Venables in this rebuild of his program because he got to Austin a year earlier than Venables showed up in Norman. And Venables had to take over a gutted football program, whereas Sarkisian took over a program that looked like it was ready to start competing under Tom Herman. But, and they made some changes, but there wasn't really a lack of talent there. Oklahoma lost 40-something players when Lincoln Riley walked out the door, including 2 5-star quarterbacks, one of which won the Heisman Trophy in his first year at USC, Caleb Williams. The other one we saw go to South Carolina and have some good games and, had a big win over Tennessee, had a big win over Clemson. He also floundered a lot like Spencer Rattler did when he was at Oklahoma in big games. That being said, you're hearing more things out of places like South Carolina or Florida, who's been bad for a while, than you're hearing it out of places like Georgia. Now, again, you have some people that are respected that are saying some of these things about Texas, but there's a love affair with Texas football and Steve Sarkisian that most of us Oklahoma fans are like, why? It wasn't good enough that Oklahoma beat Texas this year, but you heard things talking about the defense at Texas, that they were good in the trenches, blah, blah, blah. They're ready in the trenches. You've heard it from places like, not that I would call them reputable, but Barstool, their little unnecessary roughness podcast that they like to put on week to week. Brandon Walker's a troll. And he's an OU hater, but he's got everybody there believing that Texas is that good. Casey, who is a Texas A&M grad and not the brightest bulb in your strand of lights, she believes that they're built that way as well. What people don't realize is, and they're not paying enough attention to, is the fact that the best part of Texas's defensive line walked out the door after this season. Most of their starters on offense at the skill positions gone. They are returning their quarterback. They're returning 2 of their running backs as well. But they lose probably the second best tight end in the country. They lose Xavier Worthy. They lose Jordan Whittington. They lose A.D. Mitchell. They are doing very well in the transfer portal. That has been reopened thanks to the retirement of Nick Saban. But that's still leaving guys like Brandon Walker and then your Uncle Lou's of the world, who, as much as I respect Uncle Lou's channel and it's entertaining, I don't really go to Uncle Lou for knowledge and knowledgeable takes on college football throughout the country. And in fact, even on SEC knowledge. He's good at stick and BS and clowning on people. I mean, he even try to do that with me this year when we got into a little disagreement about who Colorado was. And I reminded him, I said, as much as you love USC, Colorado's the same team. He laughed and laughed and laughed and told me how delusional and stupid I was and made a video saying the same thing, only to have 2 weeks later Colorado do everything but beat USC and prove that I was absolutely right. You know, in the end, they had a little bit more talent. I said that. Point is, he made a video the other day talking about who was better and better prepared to come in to the SEC, Texas or Oklahoma. Let's pop it up there and see what he said. Up at it again. 6 a.m. Texas still sucks, and I need coffee. That's right, coffee. DevilDog's coffee. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There is only one coffee with aroma that gets you going like that. DevilDog's. Bold brews, unwavering spirit. It's DevilDog's. Hey, folks, I'm Jason Watkins, the host of Hall of Fame College Football, and the coach and I could not be prouder than to be able to announce our partnership with DevilDog's Brew and Beans, a veteran-owned premium coffee brand that is dedicated to providing coffee and tea that embodies the spirit, dedication, and fearlessness of our American military men and women. DevilDog's premium coffee, beans, and teas are sourced from all over the world, each chosen for their rich, distinct, and unique flavor that is sure to rouse your senses and make you look forward to waking up to that first cup every day. Experience each blend or tea leaf at its best, as DevilDog's roasts, grinds, and ships your coffee directly to your door the same day your order is received, ensuring maximum freshness direct to your doorstep. Use our link every time and get free shipping anywhere in the continental United States. But on this first order, just make sure that you use promo code BOOMER and you'll get 10% off of your purchase. So get in there, check out our new mugs that are with our Hall of Fame and the DevilDog logo, not to mention a nice little message that'll perk up all you Sooner fans each morning. But you know what I like best about this? I'll tell you what, 5% of each sale at DevilDog's is donated to the Wounded Warrior Project. That's right, the Wounded Warrior Project. That's why I wanted to partner with these guys. It's veteran-owned and serving veterans. Make sure that you log on to the website that you see there at the bottom right of your screen, hofmedia.us/coffee. Look, if you use the promo code BOOMER on your first purchase, you get 10% off everything that you buy. Guys, this is a win-win for everybody. Help us out, help us help them out, and support the show that you love all in one deal. Plus, you get amazing freaking coffee at that.
You go from 6 wins in Venable's first season in Norman to 10 wins in his second season. That's an obvious improvement, and I don't want to take anything away from that. That is an obvious improvement. And Oklahoma was clearly a better team in 2023 than they were in 2022. However, I have got serious concerns about Oklahoma where I really don't with Texas.
He really doesn't with Texas. No more Tavondre Sweat. Biggest part of your defensive line that wasn't able to really penetrate an offensive line that nobody was giving a lot of credit to for Oklahoma going into the Red River shootout. But Oklahoma dominated the trenches in that game. But let's go again. Let's let him continue.
Now, I get it. It's a bowl game. It doesn't matter. It's an exhibition game. No one cares about the game. I understand that that's what we say when our team loses a bowl game. That, you know, you go back to whatever the last big game Oklahoma won was, and it would be the opposite story. You'd see Oklahoma fans bragging about the win, but because Jackson Arnold did not play well, a turnover machine in that game, and they lost to Arizona, then of course the game doesn't matter. But the defense and the quarterback at Oklahoma are two huge question marks to me.
Huge question marks. Jackson Arnold, who won the Elite 11, was Gatorade National Player of the Year in 2022. Didn't play all season, aside from one half against BYU, in which he made probably a big time play. It was a very important third down, not just the throw that he made, the fact that he checked into the play and made sure they were running the right play to pick up the first down that ended the game and preserved a win, a road win that was going to continue to keep them in contention for a Big 12 championship game berth. But let's continue.
Now, I understand the struggles and problems Oklahoma had under Lincoln Riley and how happy the fans were to sort of get rid of him and move on to a more defensive-minded guy like Brent Venables. But where's the improvement defensively? I know the record got a lot better, increasing by 4 wins, but a lot of that can be traced to the offensive side of the ball. They scored over 40 points a game. Dylan Gabriel at quarterback had an unbelievable year. He was on the Heisman list in October.
Right. And that's where he continues on to kind of bash Jackson Arnold, as you'll see here.
We all know that, but they're losing Dylan Gabriel, 2-year starter. The guy had over 6,000 yards, a ton of 70-something touchdowns. Losing that is a big loss. Again, replacing it with an unknown. I've said what I need to say about Jackson Arnold. Ton of talent, ton of potential. Could have a great year. I haven't seen anything at the college level that leads me to believe that. He looked absolutely terrible in the bowl game. Now, he's got 8 months to get ready for another game. We'll see how he looks in the spring, but it was not good for Jackson Arnold in the bowl season. There's really no positive to take from that other than, well, at least he got a game's worth of experience.
So no positives to take from Jackson Arnold.
Now, I understand the struggles and problems Oklahoma had under Lincoln Riley and how happy the fans were to sort of get rid of him and move on to a more defensive-minded guy like Brent Venables. But where's the improvement defensively? I know the record got a lot better, increasing by 4 wins, but a lot of that can be traced to the offensive.
Where's the improvement defensively? There was quite a bit of improvement defensively, actually, Uncle Lou. But I know you don't really deal in facts all the time, so let me just fill you in. Turnovers forced. Oklahoma ranked 7th in the country. Interceptions 2nd, behind Liberty only. Total defense, 77th in the country. Not great. That you said somewhere around 80th. But a year ago they were 124th. Scoring defense tied for 46th, top 50 in the country. A year ago, 91st. Here's the one that I like a lot: the Athletics defensive stop rate. These are rankings that it's the percentage of a defense's drives that end in either a punt, turnover, or turnover on downs. Oklahoma ranked 30th this season at 67.3% of opposing offenses' drives ending in a punt, turnover, or a turnover on downs. A year ago, in Venables' first season, they were 72nd overall in defensive stop rate. This is one of those high analytics that are now kind of really telling a better story than your, total defense, scoring defense. Okay. Even that scoring defense, though, big improvement from a year ago. Third down defense, Oklahoma was 14th in the country on third down as well. Red zone defense is also a very big improvement for the Sooners. A year ago, they were in that 85 to 90 range. I don't forget exactly where they ranked overall. I know it was pretty high up there. This year, they ended up ranked 43rd on red zone defense. There was a time throughout the season that they were ranked in the top 15. There were some significant injuries down the stretch, and they didn't play as well down the stretch defensively as they had in the early part of the season. This was still an improved unit from last year. And again, we're talking about a program who is recruiting as good as it ever has defensively. And over the last 2 seasons has brought in 3 5-star defensive players. And arguably you could say that you've got probably a couple more that could have been 5 stars. Nigel Smith being one of them, Danny Okoye being another. You can leave them at 4 stars. They're still blue chip defenders. Again, 4 top 100 defensive line prospects in the last 2 recruiting classes. It took them they hadn't done that over the last 15 prior to 2022. Okay. Let's just be real about this. When you start looking at what's going on defensively, Oklahoma is definitely on its way to at least near the top of SEC defenses. They will be there because that's what Brent Venables does. You've got a new defensive coordinator in Zach Alley who spent 7 years with Venables at Clemson. Todd Bates knows how to recruit these guys, has never had while he was at Clemson and then at Jacksonville State in his first coaching stint as a defensive line coach, never had a player that didn't have at least one first team all conference selection. He's also put, 5 guys in the first round of the draft since becoming Clemson's defensive line coach and now over at Oklahoma. I think they know what they're doing there, right? That's your big concern? Come on. So this is his reasoning for saying that he believes much more in Texas. Texas has been recruiting well. Steve Sarkisian has proven that he can win. This is the first time ever that Steve Sarkisian's won 10 or more games, and he did that this year. And truthfully, they have done absolutely fantastic in recruiting in his 4 seasons there. The last 3 seasons, they've been 5th, 3rd, 5th in recruiting. Oklahoma, 8th, 4th, 7th this season in the recruiting as well. So they're both recruiting right on time. Now, you would say, yes, Steve Sarkisian is a year ahead because he got there a year ahead of time. He also had, I believe they were at least top 10 in his first year down on the 40 acres. Look, as much as I love to give Steve Sarkisian a hard time, you got to give him props for what they did this season. What you cannot forget is that Oklahoma beat them. Oklahoma out-toughed them when they beat them as well. Oklahoma's offensive line shut down that defensive attack that nobody else was able to. Whether they weren't able to run the ball on them. Oklahoma had over 200 rushing yards. A lot of that came from Dylan Gabriel, but that meant that Oklahoma outplayed them in the trenches no matter what. Oklahoma's defensive front shut down Texas on the 1-yard line 4 plays in a row. They couldn't punch it in. And I would tell you that as much as, yes, Quinn Ewers has more experience. He had times this season that he looked fantastic. He also had times, like in the game against Washington in the Sugar Bowl, when he looked like he was a deer in the headlights, such as when they gifted them an opportunity to come in and win the game at the end, when it looked they were never really in it at any point until then. They get down to the 11, 12-yard line, and he's afraid to take shots at the end zone. He completes 19 passes in a row in the Red River game, and yet they were all underneath passes. He only threw for like a couple. I mean, he may have been over 200 yards. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't as much as Dylan Gabriel threw for. And Dylan Gabriel, when they got down at the end of the game by 3, minute and 17 seconds left, he goes down with time left, goes 4 for 4 on a touchdown drive, wins the game. Now, Jackson Arnold, yeah, we didn't see the best of Jackson Arnold in that game against Arizona. Number one, it was his first start. Yeah, they had a couple of weeks to prepare for it. New offensive coordinators, and he had 4 turnovers. He threw 3 interceptions. Look, there's no you don't want you can't really excuse it. One thing you will say if you're an Oklahoma fan, and you should say this, is that he still passed for over almost 400 yards. He had 2 touchdown passes. Those 2 passes, we saw something that we never saw from Dylan Gabriel. And I'm a big Dylan Gabriel fan, and I'm a believer that he was very important. And I would tell you, as I said towards the end of the year, that I would much rather be going into the SEC conference with a quarterback with experience, such as Dylan Gabriel. That's not happening. He made the decision to transfer. He's going to be at Oregon this season. They got a hell of a quarterback. What they don't have is a quarterback with the arm talent that Jackson Arnold has. Is there a concern that he will turn the ball over that way moving forward? Sure, there's got to be, right? But what you also know is that if he can clean that up even just a little bit, there are things that this offense can do with amazing talent at the wide receiver position and a super ultra talented backfield, and an offensive line that, though it's young and somewhat unproven, has the best offensive line coach in the country that's about to have its 12th first or second, who is about to have his 12th first or second round pick in the NFL when Tyler Guyton goes probably in the top 20 here in a couple of months during the NFL draft. I'm not real worried about that offensive line. Would I like to see them probably shore up a little bit through the transfer portal? Sure. Is there an opportunity to do so? Yeah. If they don't, is it going to freak me out? No. And here's what else wouldn't freak me out. If Oklahoma is a better team right off the bat in the SEC, it just won't freak me out. Because even though they're probably a year behind in the development, in the trenches, Oklahoma has also done exactly what it needs to do. Again, 3 straight top 10 recruiting classes. They've gotten the guys in the portal that they probably need to get. You've got a foundation here of defensive talent that you had to have coming in here that you would have never had with Lincoln Riley. Never. Lincoln had won so much doing it the way that he does things. And I'm not even positive that he's really going to turn it around at USC. We're seeing things that we hadn't seen from him before, but he hadn't really had to go through what he just went through, which is another thing I told people that they were going to go 8-4, that he did me one better and went 7-5 with the Heisman Trophy quarterback. Folks, some of these people don't know what they're talking about. They're as ridiculous and delusional as a guy like your boy over there, Uncle Lou. Folks like Missouri fans who are going to sit here and tell you that, hey, Oklahoma's nothing. You've got this clown up at the top that has them going, 5-7 is what he's got. Losses to Alabama, Missouri, Maine, Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee, wins over Temple, Houston, and Tulane and South Carolina only. So he's got them losing to a team like Maine. This is the kind of stupid stuff we're talking about, right? This is the kind of stupid stuff we're talking about. Josh Pate told you different, that they're going to probably be a lot better than you want to admit if you're one of these other programs. You've got this clown here below the Josh Pate tweet here. Oklahoma in the top 5 is fucking hilarious. I can't wait for these OU trolls to realize their new role in the SEC. You've got Missouri's better than Oklahoma. Oh, good grief. Guys like the, SEC Coach of the Year, Venables will never. Oklahoma is the new Nebraska. Oklahoma is the new Nebraska of the SEC, and Texas is the new Vanderbilt of the SEC West. There's not an SEC West anymore, so good call there, bud. Texas is number 2, and LSU is literally not in the top 5. Ole Miss is not top 5. Mizzou is top 5. Bama is probably top 5. The school from Oklahoma is closer to 10 than 5. And what do you want me to say to this, guys? I mean, it's just silliness. It's just dumb shit. That being said, let them talk. Let them talk. Because what I'll tell you is that this Oklahoma football program is not dependent upon what people are saying about it. This is a true blue blood program. They recruit better than everybody there, except for Alabama and Georgia the last few years. They've out-recruited LSU. They've out-recruited the rest of the conference. Auburn, under Hugh Freeze, is a real threat. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. Ole Miss is doing great in the portal. But one thing we know is Oklahoma is going to put a defense on the field that can compete. Who they picked up in this recruiting class, 5-star plus guy, Dell City by way of IMG's, David Stone Jr. Then you've got IMG's Jaden Jackson, who played right beside him, a high 4-star. Nigel Smith, another high 4-star, top 100 defensive line prospect who can play probably inside or out. Danny Okoye, 5 total blue chip defensive line prospects in this class. They've had 4 top 100 defensive line recruits in the last 2 seasons commit to Oklahoma and sign with Oklahoma. They hadn't had 4 top 100 defensive line prospects in the last 15 years before that. Believe what you want to believe. This football team will be ready for the SEC. And although Oklahoma definitely has a tougher schedule in year 1 of the SEC, because for whatever reason, Texas got put on the training wheels program after the Georgia game, which follows the Red River shootout. They don't play another SEC opponent that had a winning record in the SEC. A&M, I guess you can say that that's a threat to them in their final game of the year right before Thanksgiving. If Texas doesn't, if they split with Georgia and Oklahoma and don't play for the SEC championship, then they've had a serious setback. Oklahoma, as I said, I believe that 8-4 is probably going to be a pretty damn good record in year 1. I also believe that they could be a lot better than that. I've been targeting 2025 as Oklahoma's year to really compete for everything, 2025, 2026 even. But I wouldn't be surprised if things fall together the right way and OU is playing for an SEC title, goes 10-2, gets into a playoff. I could see that happen. You go 10-2 and you don't get in the SEC championship game, you're going to be in the playoff, in the 12-team playoff. That's progress. If they don't make it, is it going to freak me out? No. Does it mean to me that they're not as good as Texas? No, because they're not playing the same level of schedule as is Texas. Texas has a light schedule. Oklahoma doesn't. Oklahoma plays, 2 road games against teams that won 11 games in 2023. They've got another road game at LSU in the final game of the season. They went 9-3. That'll probably be a night game. It's going to be a big time game. That's a tough place to win for anyone. They also play Hugh Freeze and Auburn, who this year went 6-6, but recruited well, is killing the transfer portal, and Hugh Freeze is putting together a football team at Auburn that is going to be very competitive. And oh, by the way, they only win about 75% of their games all time at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Tough place to play. Missouri, yeah, it's a tough road game because they were 11-2. It's Mizzou. They have an easy schedule too, but I don't believe that they're ever going to be able to stack up to Oklahoma. I will never pick them to beat Oklahoma anywhere, anytime. Is it going to be a tough matchup? Probably. But we just saw them lose a number of guys off their defense and pretty much their entire defensive coaching staff to LSU. It's still Mizzou. I don't buy it. For those of you in programs not named Alabama and Georgia, or even maybe LSU, shut up. Don't keep talking. Or maybe do and keep overlooking them. But I promise you this, we're going to be the ones laughing. And I'm going to tell you that if it's not in 2024, by 2025, there will be no question whether Oklahoma can compete in the SEC or not. No question. The question is Mizzou